morning, everyone. This is Chris Skirdo, and welcome to our webinar this morning on transforming the higher education experience through AV, creating the ultimate campus experience. My name is Chris Skirdo. I'm the Vice President of Business Development and Marketing at ZV. And with me is, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have Christian with me, is Christian Brunbo from Atea, great partner in Europe of ours. Good morning, Christian.
Good morning to you all. Thanks for having me.
Christian, no, you're very welcome. Glad you joined us. Christian is joining us from Norway. Christian is a father of three, has over 20 years of design experience in the AV world. And near and dear to my heart is that Christian is also a brewer, which I am a brewer also. So if we get sidetracked, you'll have to forgive us. Sometimes brewers like to go down that brewing rabbit hole and talk a lot about that. So, welcome, Christian.
Thank you. I got a yeast starter just next to me. I'm going to brew tonight, so.
Good for you. I'm running out, so I have to start something up this weekend. But
cool.
we'll have to exchange stories at some point. So, a couple things before we get started. If you look in your settings on Zoom, Zoom has the ability for you to type in a question or to chat with a panelist. I will not be monitoring the chat, but I will be monitoring the questions. So if you have a question at any time, feel free to go in, drop that online, and we'll answer it as we see it appear or as appropriate. Also, so that you know this recording or this webinar is being recorded, so you can share it with a colleague or a friend. Should be up on our website and up on our YouTube channel later, probably tomorrow. So look for those. So let's talk a little bit about why we're here. The education space is undergoing an amazing transformation. You're going to hear about 3 case studies, one in particular from Christian that is just an amazing case study about how AV is being used today in the education space, specifically higher education. And we're very excited about this use of video and how video seems to be really gaining more and more traction and being relied on more and more by universities across the world. So a little brief commercial for ZV. Who is ZV? You can see some of a few, and I'm going to be very honest and tell you, this is a few of our universities. We're also an MIT. We're in a bunch of very, very large universities throughout the world. But we're a leader in distribution of AV utilizing any wired infrastructure. So whether it be IP or whether it be RF, using coax, or whether it be using twisted pair fiber, we have products that make it possible for you to distribute AV and video in particular over almost any network. We've been at this encoding and decoding of video for over 10 years, so we have a deep, deep history in this. We have installations on 5 continents. We're moving video to well over 1 million screens and probably very close to 2 million screens at this point worldwide. We are one of the founding members of SDVOE, the alliance that is around software-defined video over Ethernet, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. And one other thing that the buzzword right now is certainly AV over IP. We are on our 3rd generation of AV over IP products now, so we've got deep experience in that area. Each generation of product is enhanced and learns from the previous generation, so we're not a Johnny-come-lately to the AV over IP world. We've got some great experience in that, and we'd love to share that with you. So I alluded a little bit to the growth of use of video in education. And here are just a couple stats. I'm not going to read them all, but what is amazing to me is that 68% of educators believe that video content stimulates discussions and enhances the education experience. And that's amazing to me that many people are on board with this. 61% believe video is preferred by students over just straight lectures. So it's creating this multimedia rich environment. And you can see this university here, and the ability to use cameras and audio and video and embed that in a lecture to create a rich experience is only going to become more and more significant in all facets of education. And we see it really being led today by major universities and leading universities Then we think from there it's going to really take off in K through 12 and in other levels of education. So how are universities using ZV's solution today? We kind of break it out into 4 categories, if you will. That learning and collaboration is the critical one. It is the mission critical one to universities. We're seeing huddle spaces develop where students gather and can plug in their media and share it on either large screens that are available to them or can share files through servers. So huddle spaces where there's a lot more collaboration going on. Lecture halls, obviously, are a big mainstay that we're doing today. And when we talk about lecture halls, it's more than just moving video into lecture halls. It is the ability to move the lecture hall remotely to other locations. There are universities that have to get 5,000 kids a year through Econ 101, through Economics 101. There's no lecture hall that can hold that many kids. Now they can take the primary lecture giver, guest lecturers, on top of that, bring it in and disperse it throughout their entire campus. So becoming very, very powerful. You know, kind of along that same lines, auditoriums, classrooms, active learning, and actually flipping the classroom where students aren't necessarily going to the classroom anymore. They're doing remote. They're coming in through, whether it be Zoom or whether it be the camera on top of their PC. They're coming into the classroom in very, very different fashion than they have before. The second area that we are very passionate about is communication and safety. You know, communication could be anything from digital signage to mass broadcast. But from a university standpoint, safety, that immediate local emergency message, that ability to get messages out campus-wide is more and more critical. And it's sad that it is, but we can help facilitate that. In addition, command and control centers through some of our upper end IP products allow you to do multi-view and zero latency broadcast, so you can see stuff as it's going on in real time. So, you know, communication safety, another big area. Sports stadiums and athletic facilities. Certainly in North America, these colleges are becoming much more almost professional in their application of video in sports arenas. And, you know, it could be women's volleyball, it could be men's football, or, you know, or even baseball. I mean, the sports and the importance of sports on these campuses and them becoming revenue generators and them using these facilities with, you know, rich video experiences is only getting more and more critical. And then the last is kind of that educate and inform piece, moving HD and UHD channels to dorm rooms and public spaces, and recreation facilities, you know, workout facilities, things like that. So those are kind of the 4 areas that ZV really sees our role and our infrastructure as providing the capability to do these things. So that brings us to our first poll question. And the first poll question is, where do you see the biggest use for video in higher education? Is it learning and collaboration? Is it communication and safety? Is it sports stadiums and athletic facilities? Or is it moving UHD and HD content around? You can click on that poll question or click on a couple of those if you would. Give you a couple seconds to vote. Great, we're almost there. All right, I'm going to close out the poll here and share the results with you. So 75% of you really are focused on learning, and 50% of you really feel that moving video across, you know, HD and UHD channels is the second, probably the second most important thing. So that's, thank you for sharing that. Let me move that off the screen. So with this, I'm going to throw it over to Christian to talk to you about an amazing install they did at Trondheim University in Norway. Christian?
Yes, thank you. This is, I think it's one of the largest AV over IP installs done in Europe. It's about 130 plus units. Everything is connected. It's in one building. Everything is connected with a high-end IP infrastructure. We are using the Cisco Nexus 5000, so it's a about $150,000 worth of infrastructure for this system. The reason for that is mainly that the IT department of the university was very involved in the decision making when we submitted the tender. So we knew that if we could provide a known high-end network infrastructure, and that we paid a lot of attention to that, we will get extra credit for that. So, well, eventually we won the we won the bid and the project. So it's distributed over 6 stories, and the main switch is in the second basement, and it runs fibers to switches, or actually it's more like a network cards, which looks like a switch on each floor, that connects everything, and then with 40 gig fibers between. So well, as they say, everything is connected to everything, and you can take whatever source and display to whatever sync you want in this system. And also we've taken the AV over IP also on the audio side, so we are everything is running through Dante on this one. So this is, as you can see on the lower right picture, it's a pretty large auditorium. The upper left picture, upper right, sorry, picture is from a standard lecture room, which they have quite a few of. It's a good old document camera on the lectern there. It's a interactive display, and they have a connection for a laptop, and they have a stationary PC there as well. So they can choose to, and also a BYOD unit, of course. So it's could be used both for standard traditional education, but also for collaboration. What we are doing now, because this building was stage 1, is a brand new building, is that now they are refurbishing a lot of other building which is in a cluster on the same campus, and adding some new walls and roofs and everything. So they'll have a stage 2, which we are now connecting with stage 1, running some fibers below the streets to connect it to the same hub, or the same core switch that is in this building. So there will be a total of 270 units of Zyper 4K, which we are running here. So we are running on 10 gig Ethernet all the way. We are running on a CAT on this project, by the way. And then we can actually connect different rooms in, well, different buildings, and they need that because at some lectures there will be too many students coming in, so they can just connect an extra room and put all the the extra students there to say expand their seating capacity for that lecture. And the customer so far is extremely happy. The university now has set AV over IP as their preferred standard, so they are waving goodbye to the HT-based T solutions already, and which proves that, well, there's something good here.
Great. It's just a great example of a university applying current technology to enrich the learning experience. So it's appreciate you sharing that with us today.
It was quite a learning experience for us as well.
Sometimes being first is never easy, right?
Luckily, we have a lot of skilled people, so we managed.
Right. Well, and
this
you had
one.
the backing of having the backing of the AV department or the IT department also helped probably tremendously over time.
Yeah, and with such a large-scale installation as this, we discovered some minor issues that was actually related to how the Cisco Nexus system handles the different packets that are sent, the video, audio, and control streams from the Cyber 4K boxes. So we only got video through in the beginning, but because it was running fine on other brands of switches. But the technical department at ZV managed to bring us a new firmware in a very short time. So we sold that one with time to spare as well.
Great. It's always great when it works out in the end.
Yeah.
And we had not been doing this was definitely one of the largest deployments we had, and certainly our largest using Cisco. So.
And ZV has been a good partner on this project for us. So.
Thank you. We talked a little bit earlier about universities and stadiums, and some of these universities becoming and arenas becoming almost professional level. A great example of that is University of Kansas. This is their basketball arena and their football arena. We actually did 3 buildings in their sports complex, and they were in analog. They moved to HD, and they had to leverage the existing infrastructure, which at the time was coax. And they're using our RF HD encoders. They're using ZV Pros. They're using some HD Bridge product to move HD content, 1080p content throughout these 3 buildings. And you can see an example of how these are almost professional stadium type environments, where this locker room and every screen above every basketball player, in this case, his locker has a TV on it. In addition to that, the concourses of the football stadium, the concourse of the basketball arena, all are taking advantage of HD. They're all HD displays. We're moving 135 channels of HD to over 600 screens in these 3 facilities. So really leveraging digital distribution to do not only digital signage, but to do entertainment, to do in fan engagement, that kind of stuff. So a very large scale, very large production that was done very, very quickly, because they were using a centralized distribution system that was provided by ZV. So we talked about stadiums. That's clearly one example. We have several others like that. Keene State College is actually using our ZV, again, our ZV Digital HD equipment to move content to the dorms. So there are common areas in the dorms with digital signage. They're also in the dorm rooms. There are 12 residence halls across the entire campus that are all wired together, and they're leveraging digital signage. They're also leveraging EAS integration, so emergency alert, that ability to create an instant message and have everybody see it. And this really is a great environment for ZV products, because you have people bringing their own equipment. And whenever you have students bringing their own equipment, you have to have standards-based stuff. And so our product, in this case, allows them not to have to connect anything but that QAM encoded TV or the QAM decoding TV to the network, and then they immediately get signal by just scanning the channels and hooking up the coax cable in this case. So we replaced an analog system again. Now it's all 1080p high def. Over 4,000 students on this campus, 12 residence halls, all interconnected on a single coax network, all have access to entertainment, information, and educational content through that network. So 3 very good case studies that give you an example of the flexibility of what it is that AV and specifically ZV can provide you. So let's go to our next poll question. And that poll question is, how are you currently deploying video? Are you doing AV over RF? Are you doing video over IP? Or are you actually using both RF and IP today? So if you could snap in a vote there real quickly, that would be great. We'd love to see what the results look like. I realize it's real early in North America, so some people are not voting. I won't hold that against you. All right, so I'm going to end this poll here. This is really insightful for us because 60% of you say you're doing AV over IP, or you're moving video over IP right now. 40% of you say you are doing both, and 0% of you are doing it just over RF right now, which is great because we have invested a lot of energy in making IP, one of our core products. So I appreciate you sharing with us. It's great news and great information for us. We like to see that. Let's continue on quickly. So, at ZV, we've been talking about how no matter what network you have, whether it's a coax network, whether it's an IP fiber network, an IP copper network, we have you covered. And in this case, what we've got here is kind of the three mainstay products in the RF world, ZV Pro, the HD Bridge 2000, HD Bridge 3000. Each one of these, the ZV Pro is great if you're doing just a couple channels, small channel count 1 to 4, and you need multiple input types like VGA, HDMI, or just a component type input. So the ZV Pro line does simultaneous RF and MPEG-2 IP out, which makes it very popular with universities because they can migrate themselves into IP slowly using this product. The HD Bridge 2000 RF product, again, so over coax, but it's really meant for larger deployments. If you're going to build a head end and you're going to distribute 30, 40, 50 channels of content. We have products in this category that can range from 480i all the way up to 1080p. We do have DVB-T/C and QAM solutions in this category. And then far on the right-hand side is the HD Bridge 3000, which is our latest RF product. It is a modular system, very, very popular. I think we've done probably 40 or 50 universities this year with this product. And it's really meant to grow with them. So as you have an RF need, it meets the RF need. As you migrate more to IP, it has the capability of doing just MPEG-4 IP out as well. So everything here is really meant to fit whatever it is you need it to do, all the way from 1 to 2 channels to all the way up to over 100 channels in that RF world. When you start to look at ZV's IP solutions in that AV over IP category, we have products for any network, whether it be a 100 meg network on the far right with Zyper MX. Then you start to get into some of our 1 gig products that work on 1 gig networks. So we've got a Zyper HD, which will do up to 1080p switched video on a 1 gig network. We have the brand new, just released Zyper UHD. We've already shipped a couple of these to locations in Europe where they're being used. And we've got a couple installs underway right now in North America. And this is a very unique product because it filled kind of a hole that we had in our lineup where you can now do compressed 4K over a 1 gig network. So if you have to move 4K, you can accept ultra low latency and some compression, and you have a 1 gig network. This product works. And then the product on the far left is the product Christian was talking about, which is Zyper 4K over a 10 gigabit network. This is a zero latency product, does 4K 64:4:4 color saturation, supports HDR. What's great about our products are, and we talked a little bit earlier about the SDVoE, the Software Defined Video over Ethernet Alliance. This group is really focused on making Ethernet the way to distribute AV or video and audio content versus using an HD-based T or a proprietary matrix switch system. This is an open standard system. So all of these products leverage standard Ethernet switches. Just got to be a smart switch doing IGMP snooping. But what it means is now software is doing the role that hardware used to do. If you wanted to do multi-view in a command and control center where you were going to split a screen into 7 individual screens, you had a large screen, you needed to be able to see 7 individual cameras. That used to require a separate box. Now, through SDVOE and what we're doing with software, it's not a separate piece of hardware. It's software that resides in the system. If you wanted to do video walls at a stadium or a dorm or in a lecture hall or in an auditorium, you used to have to buy a separate video processor for doing video walls. Now that is built into the actual piece of equipment itself. So now you've got this ability to show and use software as opposed to hardware to make things happen. So that's kind of the lineup from RF all the way to video over IP. We have you covered no matter what your need is, whether it's latency concerns, whether it's bandwidth concerns, or whether it's picture quality and resolution concerns. We have a product that's going to meet your need. So one of the things that we have very much focused on at ZV is making this stuff simple and easy to manage and deploy. We like to think of it as configuration, not programming. If you've got to do programming, it requires training, requires special talents. If you're using our tools to configure, it's simply plug and play almost. I mean, when you connect a source or you connect a display, Maestro, in the case of Maestro Z on an IP network, automatically detects that it's there, and all you have to do is name it, and it starts to work. So there's very little interaction that needs to happen when you're just setting up your network. It's not a super intense process. Now, obviously, the larger the network, it is going to be intense because you've got to think about naming configurations and things like that. But from the standpoint of Maestro with the RF products, it automatically recognizes all of the RF equipment that is broadcasting, so all of the encoders. It says, hey, I see 13 encoders here. Do you want to manage all 13? If you say yes, they all populate on one screen. The beauty of Maestro is that it's powerful and intuitive. It's real simple to use. Once you start using it, we have a bunch of tutorials on our website, actually. They're little 3-minute videos that teach you how to do all kinds of different functions. But no video is longer than 3 minutes, so no function takes longer than 3 minutes to learn here. You can access Maestro remotely or locally. It's browser-based, so you open up your browser, Chrome, Firefox, type in the IP address where the management platform resides or where Maestro resides, and boom, you're connected to that device. It is so simple to use, and one of the great things about it is we've really tried to make it so that every function is intuitive. To give you an example, you can build a video wall in less than 60 seconds and populate content to that screen. In addition to all of those built-in features like video walls, multi-view, you can create zones. So if you've got a certain building can be a zone, a certain floor in that building can be a zone, or all lecture halls can be a zone. It's unlimited, the number of mix and match capabilities of Maestro Z and what it can do for you. But in addition to that, the API is wide open for use with other control systems. And Christian, maybe you want to talk a little bit about how you guys customize that experience for Trondheim.
Yeah, we were using Maestro Z in the beginning. But what we found is that we needed some added features. So ZV has provided a great API for us to build our own web browser or web GUI on top of user interface. So we've done our own where you can easily, because when you're having, like in this project, 270 units, you can. What we've done is that we have separated them into each room, so it's just a toolbar or a quick access menu on the left side where you can just click on the room number, and then you have all the units and the status of the units for that room. Also, on top of the web browser, you will have, or the browser window, you will have a list of all offline units, and also all new unassigned units. So what you could do in our user interface is right-click on one of the unassigned units, and then you'll have a list of all the offline units, and then you can select one of the offline units, and it will copy all the all the data from the offline unit into the new one. So it will take you like 15 seconds to assign, because the all that data is also stored in the management platform from ZV. So it's not only in the boxes, but also in a management platform, so it's easy accessible from there.
Great, and that's the customize. That is a great example of how you can customize the user experience with a control system, or a custom-built control system in this case. We do have a couple questions. So the first question is, can you send 4K signal over Cat6 shielded cable with a 10 gigabit switch? Christian, you want to answer that one?
Up to 40 meters, you can use a Cat6. Or you might even get an image through on longer distances than that. But the standard Cat6 cable are actually certified for 10 gig bandwidth up to 40 meters. But if you're going longer than 40 meters, then you have to go for the Cat6A. Or if you're going further than 100 meters, then you have to switch to fiber.
All right, and let's see, someone says, what's the cross-compatibility of the system? And I'm gonna make some assumptions here as I answer this question. And I'm also gonna back up, I think, one page here. And I will tell you that you can have Zyper UHD and Zyper HD on the same 1 gigabit network. And you could also have Zyper MX running on that same 1 gigabit network, and all controlled using, well, the Zyper UHD and the Zyper HD would all be controlled using Maestro Z. You could put these three products onto a 10 gigabit network, so Zyper 4K, Zyper UHD, and Zyper HD. And there are filtering capabilities within inside Maestro Z where you only would see those, like you could filter and say, I only want to see 4K displays, or I only want to see UHD displays, or I only want to see Zyper HD displays, or the same thing with sources. So you can do an awful lot of filtering and an awful lot of management from a single session. So there is cross-compatibility with our products, and in terms of switches, again, almost any Ethernet switch will work. There are nuances within Ethernet switches, but as long as it's a layer 2, layer 3 switch running IGMP snooping, you should be fine in terms of that cross-compatibility. Let's see, will our decoders work with third party? Oh, go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, I might add something here, because the cross-compatibility might be also related to if you can send a signal from the Zyper UHD and output it on the Zyper 4K, or vice versa, or Zyper A. Can you send? Will the Zyper UHD see the Zyper 4K transmitter?
It
or the
does not
Zyper HD.
From that, yeah. Right. From that standpoint, it does not. Only a Zyper HD encoder transmitter will talk to a decoder receiver. So it has to be like for like in that environment. They can cohabitate on the same network, but they don't talk to each other because there's different codecs being used inside there to de-stream or decode the embedded video, if you would.
Would the SD? Sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah. By the way, just to clear that one as well, would the SDVoE Zyper 4K compliance make it possible to connect SDVoE compliant product from another vendor?
Yes, it does. Technically, that is how it's supposed to work. We have actually seen our management platform being used. So we've seen Maestro being used to operate other people's equipment. You know, not something we can guarantee compliance with, but the way it is set up, it should work that way, yes.
Well, that was the bonus question.
will Maestro Z pick up multiple encoders like Maestro does? Absolutely. The minute you plug an encoder or decoder into the network, Maestro Z and the management platform auto-recognize it, and it populates itself on the screen in the control section. So you just have to name it, make a couple settings, you know, how do you want to control it, things like that, and then you're all set to go. Someone asked about our MXE, which is interesting. So somebody knows about our products. Appreciate whoever that is. They asked if our MXE, which is a MPEG-4 IP decoder, video decoder, will work with any H.264 encoder, and it will. It is really meant to work with ours, obviously, so it auto detects any MPEG-4 stream that we put out, or MPEG-2 stream that we're putting out from ZV, so it auto detects those. You can manually assign IP addresses to it that will, or IP feeds to it through the IP addressing scheme, and it will decode encoders from other sources. But again, you know, it's really built to be an encoder that uses our equipment. All right, so we talked about Maestro. That brings us to our next poll question. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry. Yeah, we got another question here as well. What do you mean by MB in Zyper HD bandwidth? Less than 20 MB. That will be megabytes per second, I guess.
Yes, yes, yeah. It would. All right, so let's share the next poll. Let me pull that down. And this one is a two-part question. So you're going to get to answer two questions in one. The first question is, what is your current IP network at your facility? And or if you don't have a facility and you're an integrator, what are you working most with these days? Is it 100 meg? Is it a gig? Is it a 10 gig? Or is it more than a 10 gig network? And you can say you're not sure as well. And then on top of that, you can answer a bonus question for extra credit. Do you have plans to put video on your IP network? So if you take a couple seconds and vote there, be interested in seeing what those results are. You know, one of the interesting stories that's come out lately is if you were to talk to an IT department 3 years ago and you said you wanted to put video on their IP network, they would have thrown their arms up and said, not on my network. We've had a couple great instances recently in the last 6 months where the IT department has realized that putting video on their network is a great way for them to be able to upgrade their network to a 10 gig network or better. So, you know, they're now seeing the benefits of putting video on. So let's end that poll and let's share the results. So most of you are running on a 1 gig. One of you, 20% of our people out there have a 10 gig network they're running on. So that's great to know. And then plans for IP, 60% of you say that you plan on putting video on your IP network in the next 6 months, which is great because I know Christian and Taya would love to help you, and I know ZV would love to help you make that happen.
Yes. Right. Just a little comment on the IP network. What we learned is that when you're running a lot of AV over IP units, you need to separate this into separate VLANs, virtual LANs. Because what we experienced was that Crestron control processors didn't really like a lot of broadcast traffic running, so the controllers seized up. So what we did was that we separated the AV over IP into one VLAN, Crestron into another, Dante into a third, and then we are using the filtering capabilities into the network from the network switches to say what kind of traffic will travel between those VLANs, and that solved it. Most of the more advanced switches also will assign automatically a unit to the correct VLAN on MAC filtering, so you don't have to pay attention to connect it to the right switch port or whatever.
Interesting. It is absolutely the best way to do it if possible. You know, it can work in both ways, but creating separate VLAN for that traffic does create a sense of security and, you know, keeps the right people on the right network, shall we say. We had two other questions. One is, do you have an Android or iOS app to decode your IP streams? In the H.264 world, you can load a VLC player on either your iOS device or your Android device, and it will decode the streams for you in an MPEG-4 IP world. So in the switched environment, so that would be the Zyper MX provide you, or any of the IP-enabled RF products would also be able to provide you with a stream that a VLC player could decode. We do have the capability to control Maestro Z now from a Android or a iOS device. So you could be mobile as long as you're on that same VLAN, as Christian pointed out, or that same network with your mobile tablet. You could then use that tablet to control Maestro Z or a separate control system. So that would answer your question, hopefully. And then, like your other devices, can these products be daisy chained together for ease in overall management with Maestro Z or with Maestro? So the RF products can all be daisy chained together and managed from one standard platform. By the very nature of IP and the way that the Zyper product works, they're all on the same switch, or they're all on a similar switch if you've got a giant switch or a giant network. To the extent that a device is on the same network that the management platform is on, whether it be an encoder or a decoder, a Zyper 4K encoder, Zyper 4K decoder, same with Zyper UHD, same with Zyper HD, you can address that from a single management platform session. So from that standpoint, yes, they are all similarly controlled as long as they're on the same network. So why universities use ZV? You know, we talked a little about, we have a solution for almost every need when you look at it. You know, the one piece today, as somebody just pointed out, obviously is a wireless. We're missing that wireless distribution piece because the switching is much different and more intense when you get to some of these larger applications. So when you look at whether you've got RF, good old coax, and I shouldn't call it good old, it is old, but it has a ton of capabilities. That piece of coax has a lot of life left into it. Or whether you've got a CAT-X network or whether you've got a fiber network and you're doing IP, we've got a product that helps you move video over that. Certainly our hallmark is ease of use. We are engineered for ease of use. You know, the couple of things on here I'd point out is we're manufactured in New Hampshire, right very close to our corporate office, which makes it great for our engineers because they can shuttle back and forth to the manufacturing facility, make sure that our laboratory ideas are real world capable without having to, you know, and without having to put somebody on a plane. So it's a big bonus for us. In addition to the manufacturing quality that we get out of New Hampshire and in Virginia now is just excellent. The other thing is world-class training and support. Actually, as we're speaking right now, they're kicking off a class in Dallas, Texas, where we're training people on how to deploy AV or video over an IP network. The great part about this is it's not a ZV commercial. It is IP training. It's all about the 7-layer model. It's all about how to design a network. It's all about, you know, what pieces of equipment, what switch, how do you configure a switch? How do you create a VLAN if you're not familiar with that? All of that's covered in the class in the first half. The second half of the class, you actually get hands-on with a switch and with equipment and actually put stuff together. So that's our commitment to the industry and to people trying to do AV over IP, is that we're here to work side by side with you. So with that, it's a great time for questions. I want to thank Christian again for joining us this afternoon. It's been wonderful to have him on the call and add the great value they have. They're a great partner of ours. If you've got questions, his email is right there. My email, if you've got questions and you haven't asked them, is there as well. Christian, anything, closing remarks or anything you'd like to add?
No, yeah, of course. When selecting switches, ZV has created a list of tested compatible switches, because you might easily pick one out of a budget and when you're on site trying to commission the new system, you will find that the switch won't be up for the job. So pay attention to that. Also, make sure that you have staff that are skilled on the inner workings of network switches.
Yeah, that's a great point, a real critical point. And I would tell you that Netgear is a switch manufacturer who is part of the SDVOE Alliance. And they actually have gears, they actually have switches that come straight out of the box. I want to say it's their 4300 switch that are completely pre-configured to work with SDVOE equipment. So in our case, the Zyper 4K encoders and decoders. So that box comes pre-configured, ready to go. And more manufacturers are starting to go that route. So great. Well, that wraps up today's webinar. We appreciate you attending. We hope you've learned something. If you have questions, we'll leave my email up. This broadcast will be put up on our YouTube channel and also on our website in about the next 48 hours. So look for it there. You can share it with somebody. I thank you very much for your time today, and we hope you have a great week ahead. Thanks, everybody.